Bashar al-Assad and his family fled to Russia after Syrian rebel groups toppled his government. The civil war in Syria has seen Ahmed Hussein al-Sharaa, also known by the nom de guerre Abu Mohammad al-Julani, the leader of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, at the center of a power struggle. But there are several other Syrian rebel organizations trying to capture power and capital Damascus. Here is an analysis of what this scenario might entail for Assad, his family, and Syria. Exile in Russia offers Bashar al-Assad and his family protection due to Moscow's long-standing support for his regime. Their future in Russia would depend on the terms of their departure and the political dynamics within Russia itself. Russia has provided refuge to ousted leaders, such as Ukraine's Viktor Yanukovych. Assad and his family would likely live under heavy security and maintain a low profile. Assad has reportedly amassed significant wealth during his presidency. His financial resources could ensure a comfortable life in exile, although international sanctions may restrict access to those assets. Assad might attempt to influence events in Syria from exile, positioning himself as a symbol for loyalists. However, his political relevance would likely diminish over time, as has happened with other exiled leaders. Assad's departure leaves a massive power vacuum in Syria, likely plunging the country into greater uncertainty. The immediate aftermath would depend on how and why he fled, as well as the actors poised to capitalize on his absence. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham's al-Julani is the one who has gained the most after his group captured Damascus, leading to Assad's government's collapse. Assad's regime was heavily centralized around his family and inner circle. Without him, his support group could fracture, with competing factions vying for control. Alternatively, a close ally or military figure might assume leadership in an effort to maintain the status quo. Russia would likely try to stabilize the situation to protect its interests, including military bases in Syria. Russia could support a transitional government or install a loyal figure to maintain influence. Iran, another key Assad ally, might intensify its involvement to protect its regional ambitions, possibly clashing with Russia over who should lead Syria. Ankara might seize the opportunity to expand its influence in northern Syria, particularly against Kurdish forces and other adversaries. The US and Western powers, Western nations, which have long opposed Assad, might push for an unled political transition, but they would face resistance from Russia and Iran. Israel would like to capture some areas of Syria to create a buffer zone and also a path to attack Iran directly. Assad's departure could reignite large-scale conflict. While the civil war has quieted after Assad fled, a power vacuum could embolden various factions. Opposition forces, including those in Idlib and Turkish-backed groups, might see Assad's exit as an opportunity to reclaim lost territory. The Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, might push for greater autonomy or independence, potentially clashing with both Turkey and remnants of the Syrian regime. ISIS remnants and other extremist factions could exploit the chaos to expand their influence, particularly in ungoverned spaces. Assad's departure would likely exacerbate Syria's already dire humanitarian crisis. Renewed fighting could force more Syrians to flee their homes, adding to the millions already displaced internally and abroad. Without a stable government, international aid efforts would be further hampered. Reconstruction, which has been slow under Assad, would stall indefinitely. Syria's economy, already crippled by war and sanctions, would spiral further as political instability deepens. While Assad's departure could lead to chaos, it might also open the door for a long-awaited political transition. The international community, particularly the UN, might accelerate efforts to form a transitional government. However, divisions among global powers would complicate this process. A transitional government could pave the way for elections, though finding consensus among Syria's diverse factions would be challenging. A post-Assad Syria might have a chance to rebuild relations with Arab neighbors and the West, but this would require significant reforms and accountability for war crimes. Assad's exile would have profound consequences for the Middle East. Rivalries between Russia, Iran, Turkey, and the US and Israel would intensify as they jockey for influence in Syria. Neighboring countries like Turkey, Jordan, and Lebanon would face renewed pressure from a possible refugee surge. Arab states, some of which have recently normalized ties with Assad, might distance themselves again in the absence of a clear leadership structure in Syria.